Hello my dear students and welcome to this lecture series by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Lucknow. I am Dr. Supriya Furalatpam. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Civil Engineering in BBD ITM, and this is I will be taking unit 3 for the subject environmental engineering with code KCE 603. This is my third lecture. So, in the previous lecture, we have talked about physical characteristics of wastewater, and we have completed a little bit of chemical characteristics of wastewater. So, in last lecture we have completed solids, we have completed pH values, and we have completed hardness. Today we are going to come directly to chloride content, the fourth one. So, today we will be starting with the chloride content of water. Chloride content are generally present in water in the form of sodium chloride, that is NaCl, and this may be due to leaching of marine sedimentary deposits, pollution from sea water, brine or industrial and domestic wastewater, etc. So, obviously, wherever you have chlorides like in the form of sodium chloride or any other metals having chloride, we will have chloride content. Presence of high quantity of chlorides in rivers and streams may indicate pollution of water due to sewage or other human or industrial waste, right. So, if you have chloride, you may think that pollution is due to sewage or due to some human activities. The chloride content of water can be measured by titrating the water with standard silver nitrate solution using potassium chromate as indicator. So, here this is how we get the content of sodium chloride. Acceptable limit for chloride is 250 ppm and permissible limit is 1000 ppm according to the our Indian standards for drinking water, that is IS 10500:2012. So, the limit is 250, that is acceptable, and permissible is 1000. Now, let us come to the next that is nitrogen content, next slide. So, in the last slide what we saw that what we have seen is that there are 4 nitrogen content, that is free ammonia, organic ammonia, organic nitrogen, nitrites and nitrate. In that slide I told you why nitrate is very important for us. Nitrate is very important because presence of high amount of nitrate may cause blue baby disease or methemoglobinemia in infants. What is this disease? What is this disease? What happens is that in babies, their intestinal tracts, they are not that very well developed. Intestinal tracts are not very developed. So, what happens? So, what happens is that when you put, say if your water has high amount of nitrate, say for example more than 45 ppm of nitrate, what will happen? And if that baby, if that infant who will be like younger than 6 months, since their intestinal tract is not well developed, what will happen is that when they consume that water either through milk or some other way, what will happen is that nitrate is going to be reduced to nitrite in their going to be reduced to nitrite by nitrate reducing bacteria, right. It is going to be reduced by nitrate reducing bacteria, right. And this nitrite has very high affinity, for hemoglobin more than oxygen. So, what will happen? So, that nitrate is going to get converted into nitrite in their intestinal tract. That nitrite has very good affinity for oxygen, for hemoglobin more than oxygen. So, what will happen is that hemoglobin, which is what is hemoglobin? It is actually it is supposed to carry oxygen and from one body part, from your heart to your other from one body part to other body parts, right. So, what will happen here? The nitrate will be there. The nitrate will bind with the hemoglobin and thus will not allow the oxygen to move from one body part to another body part. So, what will happen when you are not getting oxygen? What will happen? You will suffocate, right. You will not getting oxygen, you will feel choke. So, that is exactly what is going to happen. And once you don't get oxygen, once you feel suffocated, what will happen? Your body will turn blue in color. So, the baby's body will turn blue in color. So, that is why it is called blue baby disease. So, presence of high amount of nitrate may cause blue baby disease or methemoglobinemia in infants. Children suffering from this disease may vomit. Their skin color may become dark and even die in extreme cases. So, when someone suffocates you, you die. That is exactly what is going to happen to these babies. The lower acidity in an infant intestinal tract permit growth of nitrate reducing bacteria that convert nitrate into nitrite, which is then absorbed into the bloodstream. Nitrite has greater affinity for hemoglobin than does oxygen and thus replaces oxygen in the blood complex. The body is denied essential oxygen and even in extreme cases the victim suffocate. Oxygen starvation result in a bluish discoloration of the body, hence nitrate poisoning, sometimes referred to as blue baby syndrome. But what will happen once the baby grows up, their intestinal tract is back, they are well developed and hence this nitrate reducing bacteria they are not there. So, after the age of 6 months, the flora of the intestinal tracts are fully developed and such diseases is not an issue. But so that is the reason why we have a limit of 45 ppm for nitrate, okay, which is very important. So, and this limit is not at all relaxable. So, if you should have at least not more than 45 ppm of nitrate in your drinking water. Now, let us come to another very important topic, which is phosphorus content. Phosphorus appears as phosphate in aquatic environments in several forms including orthophosphate, condensed phosphate, that is pyro, meta or polyphosphate and organically bound phosphates. So, this phosphates may occur in many types of ways, in several forms. Phosphate is a constituent of soil and is extensively used in fertilizers to replace or supplement natural quantities on agricultural lands. So, if people from the farming background or people who have done little bit of biology must be knowing that whatever the most commonly used fertilizer is NPK. Okay? So, what is NPK? NPK is N is for nitrogen, P is for phosphorus and K is for potassium. So, why is it the most commonly used fertilizers? Because NPK or nitrogen, phosphorus and potassiums are the major elements which are required for good quality growth of plants. So, phosphorus is extremely, it is a major nutrient. So, we have when we go for plants, we have major nutrients and minor nutrients. So, just NPK, this is the major nutrients. So, other major sources of, what are the other major sources of phosphate? Major sources of phosphate include municipal waste, detergents used for washing, industrial waste in which phosphates compounds are used like boiler water conditioning. So, the major sources, if you talk in terms of in terms of the Indian scenario, is fertilizer, another is soap, because you are using soap, right, detergents to wash your clothes, to wash yourselves, those have phosphates. So, where will all that phosphate go, right? So, that is where the problem starts. So, what will happen? Say you have a river or a pond, okay, and beside this you have agricultural lands. and this farmer is using fertilizers for his crops. Say he is using NPK. Now, phosphorus is a limiting element, okay, limiting metal or limiting element, not metal. So, what will happen? So, before, say if we talk about a water body, what will happen? I think you people must have seen that some water bodies, the water body is completely covered with aquatic plants and algae and aquatic plants. So, how is it? Algae and aquatic plants. What exactly is happening is that before this river or before this water body was clear, it was a nice water body, bluish water, bluish greenish water, lots of animals, lots of fishes, aquatic animals, right. After this farmer started using fertilizer and after we started using detergents, what will happen? This fertilizer, once it rains, what will happen? Some of this fertilizer is going to flow off and how it is finally going to reach to this water body, right. This fertilizer, when it reaches, what will happen? It is going to, this fertilizer is going to enrich this fertilizer, that fertilizer is going to enrich this water body. So, this is going to enrich this water body. Now, what will happen here? You have phosphorus here which is enriching. Now, since this water body also has aquatic plants, they also require NPK. Now, you are giving extra N, extra P, nitrogen you can always get it from the atmosphere. So, what will happen is that because of this, these plants will started growing off. आप फर्टिलाइजर दे रहे हो एक तरह से aquatic plants को. So, what will happen is that this plants, this algae will start growing. It will start growing. What after some time, all of this water body will be covered with algae and aquatic plants. Now, what will happen now? Since this is now covered, before the water body used to get oxygen, from the atmosphere through diffusion, right. That is how you get DO, dissolved oxygen, right. Now, this is now covered with algae and aquatic plants. So, now there is no surface for diffusion, or as you can say the diffusion surface has decreased, right. Now, so what will happen? Level of DO is going to get decreased. Once the level of DO is going to get decreased, what will happen? The aquatic organisms living there, the fishes which require a very good amount of dissolved oxygen will start dying off. Not only that, once this algae is, all this algae and aquatic plants, they also will die off after some time because they cannot be available for a long time, right. They will start dying and what will happen? They will start decaying. So, क्या होगा? नीचे they will start settling off, right. And these are the organic matter. तो ये organic matter यहाँ पे आ जाएगा and ये settle करने लगेंगे. तो अब क्या होगा? अब क्या ये होगा कि इस पानी में ज़्यादा organic matter हो गई. Those organic matter is going to use this oxygen or this for degradation. So, further decreasing the DO. So, DO will decrease because first of all diffusion will be decreased, diffusion of oxygen from the atmosphere is going to decrease. Another thing is amount of oxygen used for degradation of organic matter will also increase. So, DO का level जो है बहुत ही ज़्यादा कम हो जाएगा. उससे क्या होगा? उससे आपका DO का level बहुत कम होने से आपकी जो aquatic life है like fishes and all, they will start dying off. And this, in fact, as I can say, this water body will slowly start dying. At the same time, यहाँ से sedimentation होने से क्या होगा? ये fill up होने लग जाएगा ये water body. So, this term, this whatever happening is called eutrophication. So, let us read here once again. Phosphorus appears as phosphate in aquatic environments in several forms including orthophosphates, condensed phosphates and organically bound phosphates. Phosphate is a constituent of soil and is used extensively in fertilizers to replace and or to supplement natural quantities on agricultural lands. Major sources of phosphate includes municipal waste detergent used for washing, industrial waste in which phosphate compounds are used like boiler water conditioning. While phosphate is not toxic, it is obviously not toxic and do not represent a direct health threat to humans and other organisms, they do represent a serious threat to water quality. The water quality is going to be decreased. As phosphate is often the limiting nutrient in surface waters, when available supply of phosphate is increased, rapid growth of aquatic plants usually results with severe consequences like accelerated eutrophication of the water body. So, eutrophication will happen. So, what is eutrophication? Eutrophication is what I just told now, right. Eutrophication is a process under which water bodies like lakes get infested with algae and silt up gradually to become shallower and more productive through entry and cycling of nutrients like carbon, nitrogen and phosphorus. Eutrophication threatens the survival of fishes and other aquatic life form and deteriorates the water quality of the water body. It is therefore imperative to stop the entry of sewage and industrial wastewater which largely contain phosphorus into lakes. Phosphorus content in domestic sewage can be reduced by banning the use of phosphate rich polyphosphate in detergents. So, what happens, whatever phosphorus you are extra phosphorus you are using in fertilizers, what extra phosphorus you are using in detergents, they are finally going to end up in some water body creating eutrophication, decreasing the quality of water there and obviously affecting the aquatic life. So, why that is why phosphorus is very important. So, we have to remember the term eutrophication. When the term eutrophication comes, you should always remember phosphorus, right. It is because of phosphorus. Now you can ask me that, ma'am, here you are saying that we have carbon also and nitrogen also. See, why is not eutrophication mainly concerning with carbon and nitrogen? Because carbon is already present in organic matter, which is very common. Nitrogen you can always get it from atmosphere. The limiting was what was controlling eutrophication from happening before was phosphorus, but once you have this phosphorus, that eutrophication starts happening, right. Now, next come to the next slide, that is fluoride. Fluoride is also an extremely important thing because it is going to affect it. So, fluoride is toxic to humans and other animals in large quantities while it is beneficial in small concentrations. So, fluoride के साथ क्या है? Fluoride के साथ ये है कि होगा नहीं होगा तो भी प्रॉब्लम, होगा तो भी प्रॉब्लम, राइट. सो फ्लोराइड कंटेंट में आपको 1 ppm फ्लोराइड कंटेंट होना चाहिए आपके पानी में और 1.5 ppm से ज़्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. आपको फ्लोराइड चाहिए पर उतनी ही लिमिट में चाहिए, ना इससे कम ना इससे ज़्यादा. सो during formation of permanent teeth, fluorides combine chemically with tooth enamel resulting in harder, stronger teeth that are more resistant to decay. अगर chloride होगा तो you are going to have very good tooth, right, and obviously bones. A concentration of 1 to 1.5 ppm of fluoride is required in the potable water. If it is less than 1 ppm, it is going to affect your teeth. It is going to the teeth of children will be very much affected. Fluoride is often added to drinking water supplies if sufficient quantities is not present naturally. But when you have more fluoride, what will happen? Excessive intake of fluorides can result in discoloration of teeth, bone fluorosis and other skeletal abnormalities. You have more, you have problem. You have less, you have problem. So, you should have the right amount of fluoride, right. So, When fluoride concentration in drinking water exceed 2 ppm, noticeable discoloration called mottling is commonly seen. What is mottling? It is like that you see that teeth which is a little bit orangey or brownish color, and you can see that it is not at all healthy. That is type of is called mottling. So, you should have fluoride content. For fluoride content you should remember only two things: 1 ppm, 1.5 ppm. Less than 1 ppm not acceptable, more than 1.5 ppm also not acceptable. Thank you.